Zella James, and I chair this Urban Affairs Committee of the Senate. Today, we're going to discuss an issue that's very close to my heart, the impact and the legacy of the Rosenwald schools. Before we begin, I would like to ask Senator Lucas if he would open us in prayer.
Yes, please. Oh, gracious and heavenly Father, we ask you today, in troubled times, to give us the strength and the fortitude to do what's right. And give us the courage not to be afraid, for things are not happening the way that we thought they might happen. But we are witnessing a new dilemma. A president who you might call the Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. But give us the faith that we've carried all these years to make us whole. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Senator. And I think that since you just gave us that very inspirational prayer, will you go ahead and introduce yourself? We're going to have introductions. And
I'm David Lucas. I represent the Senatorial District 26. That includes Houston County, Bibb County, Twiggs County, Wilkerson County, Hancock County, Washington County, and Johnson County.
thank you.
Senator Rashawn Kemp, I represent Senate District 38, which covers portions of Fulton County. That would be Sandy Springs, Atlanta, Fairburn, Union City, Palmetto, and Chattahoochee Hills, City of South Fulton as well.
Little portion.
Little portion.
I have the rest of it. I used to have all of it, but I love you. I'm so glad they chopped it up. Yeah. But I would like to hear from all of the staff as well, and then from Senator Davenport.
Hi, my name is Diego. I'm the legislative assistant for Senator James.
Okay. Thank you.
Vince Wiegand, Office of Legislative Counsel.
Good morning. I'm Nathan Corbett. I'm with the Senate Office of Policy and Legislative Analysis.
And good morning, all. My name is Zach Pishak. I'm with the Senate Press Office.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you for your patience. We're going to get started. Go ahead, Senator. You're the main person here we got to hear from.
I'm State Senator Gail Davenport. I represent Senate District 17, portions of Clayton County and portions of Henry County. But you know, if you live in the state of Georgia, I represent you too. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
And we might have at least two others. They're already in the building, but they had another meeting, so they'll come and join in with us. And are we streaming?
Yes, ma'am.
And we are streaming, so they'll be able to come. Okay. Since everyone said what they represent, let me tell you, I am proud to be Senate District 28. I was Senate District 35 for about 20 years, and all of a sudden, my district changed. But I represent portions of Cobb County, almost all of Douglas County, and of course, all those cities you heard that he represents in South Fulton. I have portions of that as well, and I live in South Fulton. I'd like to take a little time to have every committee member here who has already introduced themselves say why we are here about education today. We'll start with you.
Well, I'm just very excited to be here and hear from Senator Davenport. I remember her bill coming before the Education Committee to get a study committee, and I was very determined to get her a vote. And so we were able to force that to get a vote versus just a hearing. And so I'm very excited to learn about the Rosenwald schools and the legacy and the opportunities, especially from someone like me that is a former educator. I led a high school in Ohio before moving down here, which was a charter school, and I believe that in many ways charter schools are a continuation of what the Rosenwald schools were and an opportunity for us to continue that legacy through that process.
Thank you very much, Senator Kemp, and now Senator Lucas.
Well, education is probably one of the most important parts of our life. Books and education. We're at a time in the history of this country that there is a move to erase history. And I say that if one doesn't know their history, then they assume to repeat the same things all over again.
Thank you very much. And Senator Davenport, who is the author of Resolution 301 and the #1 sponsor. Will you give us a chance to, you want to go up here?
That'd be good.
Okay. Where is it? Okay.
Thank you very much. Let me first thank Senator James, the chair of the Urban Affairs Committee, and the committee members for having a hearing on Senate Resolution 301. We are just delighted. They've put it on record here in the Georgia State Senate and say how important it is to have a study committee and have a hearing for the Rosenwald schools. We have some persons who have come today to speak and tell us about the impact and tell us all about the Rosenwald schools, and we are delighted to have them. But just briefly, this bill says that in the early 1900s, Booker T. Washington, who was an educator and was president of Tuskegee Institute, which is now Tuskegee University, partnered with Julian Rosenwald, who was the president of Sears, Roebuck and Company, then that built to build about 5,000 schools in the South for black children. They did that in the rural schools, constructions of schools in poor rural African-American school districts across the South. And in Georgia, this is important because in Georgia, out of 159 counties, we had 103 counties that had Rosenwald schools, and there was 240 of them, which had an impact on 35,000 students. Now, my mother attended a Rosenwald school. I grew up in Clayton County in Jonesboro. My mother lived on a farm, had to walk 3 miles to school and 3 miles back every day. She just passed away at the age of 98 this past December. She taught in Clayton County Public Schools 38 years, had a stellar career there. It lifted she grew up on the farm, and it lifted all those children out of poverty there. She was a 1942 graduate of Jonesboro Colored High School, which they found out later was the Rosenwald School, because at that time children were just going to school and glad to get an education. She was a 1942 graduate of the Jonesboro Colored School, which was the Rosenwald School, and then she enrolled in Clark College, and we're delighted that we have someone from Clark, Dr. Valerie Bennett, here today from Clark College. And my mother's principal encouraged them so much to attend college, and she was a 1905 graduate of Clark College, which is now Clark Atlanta University. So it's a lot of history there. We had the opportunity to name a portion of a highway in honor of Miss Minnie Saxon, who helped so many children there in Clayton County. My mother was an educator, and she had two daughters. One is a retired educator, and the other one has a degree in education but has not taught one day. But she is a
You're
state
teasing us
senator.
Yes, very much.
Oh, goodness. Got off script, sorry. The Rosenwald and Washington program dramatically transformed the country by profoundly reshaping African-American experience, and yet its scope and impacts are largely unknown, and that's what we're trying to do, is get an awareness. A lot of people do not know about the Rosenwald schools, and we know it's important to do, and we want a place here in the Capitol where we can show off the Rosenwald schools and the education of black children. So again, thank you all so much for being here. We have speakers here that will tell us about what they are doing in their communities. And also, Mr. Ryan Roth will tell you, because he's been studying this. Some of us say we're historians, but he is really a historian. He goes out and he has all the information there and all the pictures there. So thank you all so much for being here and for letting us put it on record about the Rosenwald schools, because the Senate, the Georgia State Senate, did vote to have a study committee. We were not able to do that this time, so thank you, Senator James, for allowing us to have this hearing here today.
You're very welcome. Okay. Well, let me say that I am really delighted to have this meeting today, this hearing, because I'm the daughter of two educators. And of course, I'm on the Education Committee here in the Senate as well. And I know the importance, but also I know the importance of our history and our legacies. And what you just told me was just overwhelming. You know, I had written a few things down about it, but you said things that I did not know already. So I'm happy to be here. I also am on cultural history. You know, I've worked with the international communities. I work with the art galleries, and I'm happy to know that we're going to educate people on what we already have here, what we need to have even more of here. So for those of you who do not know, the Rosenwald schools are named after Julius Rosenwald. And he was a businessman and philanthropist. And in the early 1900s, he joined the Booker T. Washington. He joined with Booker T. Washington to build schools for black students across the state. And I think you said Tuskegee Institute was one of them.
The Tuskegee Institute is where where Booker T. Washington was president.
That's right, he was president at that
Booker
time.
T. Washington.
And my mother, who is 95, will be 96 November 29th, is a graduate. And my dad, we're both graduates of Tuskegee. So, yeah. So I have a little bit of history all around here. You know, I'm born and raised here in Atlanta, and I taught in Atlanta public schools for more than a decade. That wasn't for me, though, Senator. Even though you said you had education was your major as well. No. Anyway, let me finish and get started with the very impressive list of speakers that we have coming up. I truly believe. I'm the second signer on this legislation. Thank you. No, thank you, because you know often we're rushing around and reading each other's legislation, And I forget to say, can I sign it? But you allowed me to sign it second, so thank you so much. And let me cut this off so everybody else do like me. Put it on silent or turn it off, okay? When you know the thing doesn't work when I'm trying, okay, that's good. You know, many of the Rosenwald schools, we have, in Georgia, it's more than 240 Rosenwald schools, correct? And 103 counties out of our 159 counties have Rosenwald schools. And I was very interested in knowing that because this is not something that's exclusive to one area, but all of Georgia and all over the country. And I would like for Georgia to step up and do what we need to do. So I'm giving you my personal opinion, my one vote. But I do know that it has so much potential, even now, even though they have in numbers. But we want to make sure that all of them have the impact that they can have. So while not in my district yet, there may have once been Fairburn, Walson, Rosen, since you got Fairburn now. There was one in Fairburn, Rosenwald School, and that would serve the people in today's southern area of South Fulton. So the schools deserve to be remembered for their broad role in uplifting communities across Georgia. So if we have legislation, I would love to pass it so I can see Fairburn, Georgia. So I might not have Fairburn, Georgia, but I live 4 miles from the line. So I would love for our community to have a Rosenwald school. Without further ado, I'm proud to turn it over now to our speakers who have come, and I was looking for the list. Senator, who do you want first? You want to call out their names?
Dr. Valerie Bennett, Assistant Professor and Program Director for Graduate Teacher Education Programs and Director of Educational Technology and Innovation in the School of Education at Clark Atlanta University here in Atlanta. But I think we had another committee.
Yeah, I was about to say why she's coming up. Will you please, Senator, introduce yourself?
Senator Sheikh Rahman, I served at Senate District 5, which is in Gwinnett County, part of Lawrenceville, Norcross, Tucker, and Duluth. Glad to be with you all, and thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. And you have some other interests too, don't you? You called me about. Would it intercept with the Rosenwald schools at all? We'll talk later.
Necessarily something
Okay.
similar, something
Similar.
definitely something history, anything that have the historical perspectives and minorities definitely have interest, no doubt about that. But especially I'll talk to you offline some of the other stuff that I'm interested to get aligned with this.
Thank you very much. So without further ado, Doctor, yes.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
I'll be like a teacher. Good morning. It is indeed an honor to stand before you. Thank you, Chairman James and Senator Davenport, for this invitation. And so I'm just going to jump right in and get into our discussion and what I'd like to share today. So my talk today is entitled From One-Room Schoolhouses to HBCU Classrooms. So next slide, please. So I'm going to start this journey talking about my educational journey. And you see that wonderful picture for me from Collier Heights Elementary School. I'm born and raised here in Atlanta. And my first memory regarding anything related to Sears, thank you, is that good old Christmas wish book. Y'all remember those? And I tell you, we didn't have Post-its. We just had little sheets of paper. And, you know, you strip it and you just have all of these things you wish for, right? And so that was my first introduction to Sears. And you see the books there. I just visualized these books when I was looking this up. And so it gave me just this longing, right, of things I could wish for. And I knew I wasn't going to get much, but I wished for them. So, wishful thinking, right? It's always great to wish. And so this was our version of Amazon, right? It wasn't next day shipping, but you eventually got whatever you ordered. So that was my connection with that. So I went to Douglas High School, and I was part of that first graduating class of the Magna program for applied technology. And so it was just a wonderful spirit being part of the APS system. And it was just excellence all around us. Great teachers, great mentors, still communicate, and I keep those lessons deeply embedded in who I am right now. Okay, so my family, I'm the youngest of 5. You see John and Lola, mom and dad, and they instilled in us that you will be going to college. My dad sat us all down, not quite a table this big, and he said, y'all are getting a scholarship. It was non-negotiable. And I was like, okay. So that's what we did. And I'm blessed and thankful. I'm a first generation and thankful to go to Vanderbilt, major in mechanical engineering, then on to Georgia Tech for my first PhD, worked in industry for a little bit. And now I'm in the education space. I like to say I teach STEM teachers how to teach STEM. That's really what I do. And so my second doctorate is from Clark Atlanta in higher ed leadership. So just trying to make as much of an impact as possible. I also have a STEM nonprofit called STEM Compass that has been in operation for over 10 years. So mom and dad went to Booker T. Washington High School, opened in 1924, and he attended school with Martin Luther King. And I'm like, wow, you did that? So he did that. He went in the military and came back. He didn't finish college, but again, he instilled that within us. My mom went to Turner High School, and she attended with many community advocates, and we grew up with them, and they were around the house all the time. So it was just an incredible legacy. And so I shared that because I want to say that everyone has an education journey. My journey was extremely impacted by the spirit and intention of those Rosenwald schools and HBCUs. So just getting into it a little bit, the history has been shared, but I'll give more visual and perhaps some insights, and I know my colleagues will have lots more to share as well. So we heard about Booker T. Washington. He went to Hampton Institute, then became a teacher there, and then in 1881 was invited to become the first principal of the newly founded Tuskegee Institute. And that school was called a normal school. You'll hear that terminology quite a bit. And that means it's not normal versus weird or okay, but it means that they recruited high school graduates to be teachers and to learn the norms of curriculum and pedagogy. So there were several of these normal schools that were established, okay? And we've heard about the incredible Mr. Julius Rosenwald, but in 1908 became the president of Sears, and his philanthropy was really motivated by his religion. And he was Jewish, and the beliefs about America could not advance if part of his people were left behind. How can you go forward and you leaving people behind? So this was one of the huge tenets of what really motivated him. And we also see those other principles of tzedakah, where Tikkun Olam. If I mispronounced that, I apologize. But thank you. And again, it just embodies we have to bring equality. We have to give charity and bring justice to all of our people. Otherwise, we are not fulfilling the will of God that is in all of us. So he ended up reading Up From Slavery, which is Booker T. Washington's autobiography, and was really inspired by his story. So these were some of the catalogs of Sears, and around 1911, you see the one in the middle, right? 1911 is when they actually meet. They meet in Chicago at a fundraiser, and they discovered they had very similar goals and became energized by this similar purpose and goal. And so that sparked this pivotal, what I call a pivotal and timely partnership, where this time in history, where it's a time to say, let's invest in facilities and empowering our students and educators to bring and to transform these opportunities. Because it's not about, and I'm going to emphasize this, it's not about the talent, it's about the resources and opportunity. So if we can just look at it from that lens, that is what made this so very powerful and impactful. So about 90% of African Americans lived in the South before the Great Migration. And this happened over about 60 years. And before that flight happened, we have so many African Americans who don't have access to public education at all. Their aunt or someone who may know how to read, they're educating them in their homes or in a shack, but definitely not a building. So for the next 4 years, until Washington's passing in 1915, the two men collaborated to create thousands, imagine thousands of schools, we'll get to that number in a second, of schoolhouses across America, mainly the Southeast, for African American children in rural areas. So we're not talking about just someone come over and try to teach me. We're talking about highly trained teachers and quality education that these students were receiving. And they were very intentional about that in terms of who are we putting in front of our children, what are they being taught, and what is their legacy. We're just not going to teach you and say good luck after that. They were creating a pipeline. I'm going to talk about that in a second. So in 1916, they expanded the program outside of Alabama, and now they were starting to fund other schools at other places. And this is just one example. I know my colleagues will share many more schools, but I just wanted to show that one. And you can, now that I've done a lot of research on this, you can really look at a building and tell if it was a Rosenwald school, okay? So how did this happen? Well, during the Progressive era, they established a Rosenwald School building program. And it was funded with money from the grant, and there was a huge community component where the people in the community were asked to donate their labor, land, materials, and money so that they can have skin in the game, so that they can feel also this is something that we're a part of, that we've created, and we want to make sure that our children see us investing in them. So either it was a community in Rosenwald grant, or some schools were actually able to get some school board funds. So I'm not going to go through this timeline, but we talked about 1916 when the expansion happened. And this is the map that shows, look at all those little dots. 5,000, my historian may correct me on some of my numbers, but 5,337, it says buildings, those are schoolhouses that were established through the Rosenwald Fund. That is incredible. In the 1900s? Are you kidding? He was determined. And he was a strategist as well, and was able to put together this network. And it was like, okay, copy, paste, over here and over here. So it was well established. So in Georgia, again, my numbers may be different, but I highlighted those numbers there. And so they established teacher homes as well as vocational shops in order to train our African American children. So what are the connections between the Rosenwald schools and HBCUs? So there are several that we talked about. Robert Taylor, and he was the first Black architect who was educated at MIT. And he created this standardized blueprint that was used. Remember I said copy paste? Why change something if it's working? So it gave them an immediate way to go ahead and get these schools built. Then we look at what I call the ecosystem of education. So you have the student, maybe I have the pointer, there we go. The student who is being taught at Rosenwald, they go to an HBCU, they graduate, they become a teacher in the Rosenwald School or a professor at the HBCU. They have a family, and where does their child go? Back to a Rosenwald school. So it established this ecosystem that was incredible. So it was a constant pipeline, okay? And it was able to remain very, very strong. So that bridge between K-12 and higher education was well established long before we ever started talking about it, right? Other connections, Mr. Rosenthal also, I keep saying Rosenwald, my apologies, later expanded his funding to directly support HBCUs. We're talking about Fisk, Morehouse, Spelman, Howard, and of course he continued to give to Tuskegee. And this amounted to $4 million. Are you kidding me? Thank you. Thank you, that's amazing. So we have to understand that the resources and support, because the talent is there, but we needed that support, okay? So what about a few notable alumni? I know y'all know that picture at the bottom. Congressman John Lewis. He went to Pike County Rosenwald School in Alabama, then went to Fisk, and we all know his strong history and legacy. Moving on to Medgar Evans. Went to Newton County Rosenwald School in Mississippi, Alcorn, and we know his legacy as well. So I know my time is fleeting, but suffice it to say, these individuals had an incredible impact on the community that they went back into because they instilled that. They had classes on character. Can y'all imagine teaching that right now? A class on character. They were very intentional about what their students learned. A few others I'll share about Maya Angelou. She went to Stamps Rosenwald School in Arkansas. And then one of my favorite, Carlotta Walls Lanier. She was part of the Little Rock. Yes. And so she was a pioneer. That gave her, right, that strength, that fortitude to go forth and help others. So 40%, in 1940, economists found that the Rosenwald schools accounted for nearly 40% of the narrowing gap in the rural South. Just that one effort was able to bridge the gap. That's incredible. Imagine multiplying those efforts. And then in Georgia, I know my colleagues will say more about this, but when we say the connection between the Rosenwald schools and HBCUs, they're saying near if it's within 5,100 miles. But they still had a pipeline because those HBCUs had teacher prep programs, and they already knew where you're going to work. So it established this strong connection between how they can keep high-quality teachers coming to those schools. All right, and I'm almost done here, but it's, again, talking about just the number, the masses of students and teachers that were impacted by the Rosenwald schools. And additionally, they created this amazing fellowship program. Amazing. So now they're recognizing the talent of graduates of HBCUs and want to fund them even further. So again, that ecosystem continued. So we have John Hope Franklin, Marian Anderson, Langston Hughes, and W.E.B. Du Bois. All right? So again, this self-sustaining educational workforce, that was their strategy. We're not going to just let you graduate and good luck. We want to still support you. Okay, and there are hundreds more of those fellows. So we're talking about a legacy of teachers, leadership, community, legacy, impact, and inspiration. And I thank you for your time.
Any questions from the committee? No? Because you did a very great job. Thank you very much. And we have so much in common. Now I don't have to ask you where I know you from. I grew up in Collier Heights, too. And my dad was the first principal, Dr. Eugene Thomas, of Collier Heights Elementary. And my mom taught at Douglas High, where you say you went. So now I know why you look familiar. All right, and you're doing a great job. I'm very proud of you. Thank you very much for the great presentation. And our next speaker is, you got this. Nobody gave it to me.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Mike Weinroth, who is the former Assistant Director of Special Education with Gwinnett County Schools.
Oh, yes.
And let me say that Mr. Weinroth has been so instrumental in helping us. He has a vast amount of talent and expertise in this area, and he has so many friends, and some he brought with him, that can tell us all about the Rosenwald schools. He asked me if I had gone to the website of Fisk University and saw the list of all these schools and everything. He expected me to know all of this in the beginning, and I said, well, Mr. Weinroth, you can stand there.
You can sit here, and then also if you have other people who have come with you who are not going to be on the presentation, they can sit up here for your presentation. Others?
Well,
Others?
Mr. Emmett Mullins right here
Come sit up here with us.
has become a close friend of mine because
Okay.
he's gone out of his way to do some stuff for me.
Thank you.
So, Valerie, some of what you said, I'm going to be saying, and actually there's some of the same pictures, which I'm sorry. Can we get both screens going, or?
Yes, we do have
Okay.
both of them.
Let me just go back. So I'm just going to try to give you, brief is not part of the world I live in, but I'm going to really try
It's
to do
on.
this.
It's on.
And you will also note that 1932, there's an asterisk by that, and there's a reason for that. But we have someone else that's going to talk about that asterisk. Okay, so I want to move forward, and I think there's so much in this statement. The further backward you look, the further forward you can see. And I really believe that's true. I think we have to look back to know where we're going in the future. Booker T. Washington was an amazing individual. Am I too loud? Okay. He was an amazing person, and I'm going to say some of the same things that Valerie said, but I want you to know exactly how he happened to meet Mr. Rosenwald. First of all, Booker T. Washington was an amazing, charming gentleman. He was selected to speak at the Cotton States Southeastern Cotton States Exposition. He was the first African American to be asked to speak. And the reason he was asked was, this was held in Piedmont Park in Atlanta, Georgia. And guess what? There was even a pavilion for African Americans to go to because they had never been permitted to go to any of this. But what they were trying to do, because this was like a World's Fair, 800,000 people attended this Cotton States Exposition. And so imagine selecting an African American. So it gave to the people that came from all over the country, wow, the South is really moving forward. Isn't that progressive? Well, it was and it wasn't. We know there's always a mixed message here. But he gave a profound presentation, and he was considered one of the best speakers in the world at that point. So how is it that Rosenwald and Booker T. Washington got together? Well, Booker T. Washington always had his ear to the ground. He had a vision. His vision was, we need to do something about black education in the South. And he heard through the grapevine, there was even grapevines back in 1910 and 1911. He heard through the grapevine that a group of African American businessmen in Chicago had gone to Mr. Rosenwald and said, Mr. Rosenwald, we know that you're very generous. Our people who come to the city of Chicago need a place to stay other than home hospitality, because there were no hotels for African Americans, even in Chicago in 1910 and 11. And Rosenwald said, great. They asked for 2. I think he actually built 3 or 4 YMCAs for African American men. And of course, who was the first one to hear about this? It was Booker T. Washington. So he's like, I gotta go see that man. And how he got from Tuskegee to Chicago, I don't know, maybe there was a train running from Birmingham, Alabama, and got him up there. It was probably a 2-week trip. But anyway, he gets to Chicago, he meets Mr. Rosenwald, and they are like 2 peas in a pod. He couldn't have found the more perfect person in the person of Julius Rosenwald. Julius Rosenwald wanted to change the world. He had the money to change the world. He was very low key, but Booker T. Washington had him. He had him, and he started talking about his dream in Tuskegee. And what he asked Rosenwald to do was, he said to Mr. Rosenwald, he said, you know, we are getting students at Tuskegee who are not really prepared to do the work. We need 2 lab schools built nearby the campus so that we can sort of fast forward their education to bring them up to snuff to get into Tuskegee. So as things worked out, Rosenwald built 6 laboratory schools very close to Tuskegee. And of course, by that time, he had him. He had him, hook, line, and sinker. Rosenwald had become a very wealthy man. He did not invent or start Sears and Roebuck. It was Richard Sears and Alva Roebuck. Well, Alva Roebuck dropped out, and Rosenwald had bought 50% of the shares of Sears and Roebuck. And a few years later, Richard Sears said, I've had enough, I'm really tired, I want to get out of here. And so Rosenwald bought him out. At the same time, Congress had passed the act that created the Rural Free Delivery System. And people out in the country could get that book that Valerie talked about, that Sears Roebuck book. It was the Amazon of the day. And of course, this was a picture of the building that Rosenwald, I don't know whether he built it, but he did create a 45-acre campus. He had housing for all Sears Roebuck employees. It was the biggest business in the United States of America at the time. Like Ponce City Market. It does look like Ponce City Market. Well, it was probably around the same era. The architecture was the same.
Is it the one on Ponce?
No.
What?
This is in Chicago.
It was a Sears and Roebuck, yeah, and it was a big thing. Now it's.
Oh, you're right. Actually, I'm sorry.
It started out
right
because my older sister was a catalog model.
She was.
Yeah, my other sister too, but they didn't think I was.
You know what?
pretty.
The apple doesn't fall from the tree, Senator. Okay, so if they do look alike now that I think about it. But this was in Chicago.
Oh.
And like I said, it was on a 45-acre campus, and there was housing for the employees, and it became a world-renowned business. I wanted to read this to you and let you read along. The Rosenwald Schools Building Program began in 1912 and ended in 1932. And there you see the little asterisk again. During this time, I had 420 schools were built in Georgia. I think I have a reversal problem. It was 240 schools were built in Georgia. They were of varying sizes, and most were modest little wooden schools, maybe 2, 4, 6 classroom buildings that had very large windows that always faced east and west. Some had indoor plumbing, but many had just a pump in the front yard and outhouses. There were some brick schools as well. They tended to be larger, and in reality, none of this mattered, because for the first time, these schools belonged to the communities who had contributed a third of the building, and that was the African American community. It was something that was their own. Students gained more than an education in these schools, far more. They thrived because of the education they had and the teachers they had. And let me just say one quick thing. You may know the name Hamilton Holmes.
Yes.
Okay, his mother was my supervisor at the State Department of Education. She was what you call, she grew up in Tuskegee. Her parents were both, her maiden name was Campfield. I'm gonna try not to get emotional about this. Isabella Holmes went through a lot with both Hamilton and Charlene Hunter, who applied to the University of Georgia to attend. You know, they weren't good enough. They weren't bright enough, even though they both graduated at the top of their class from Douglas High School.
Wow.
After a year and a half of court proceedings, they were admitted to the University of Georgia, and I will tell you that Hamilton Holmes became one of their biggest boosters. He gave so much money to that university, and how he was treated. Charlene was treated a little bit better. She could live in the dorm. Hamilton could not live on the campus. And they found an African-American family in Athens for him to stay with, and when he drove to campus, purposely, cars were parked bumper to bumper to his car so he couldn't even leave the campus. His life was miserable, but how he made that transition to love the University of Georgia.
Can you sit down right there while you're doing it so we can catch it on streaming?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
But you can sit down right here.
I didn't need to. Anyway, so as a result of this partnership between Rosenwald and Booker T. Washington, over 5,000 schools were built in the Southeast. But the amazing thing to me that says so much about the character of Mr. Rosenwald was Booker T. Washington died 3 years into this 20-year building program. He was born in 1856. He died in 1915, a short life. But Rosenwald continued that legacy of building the schools. Now, you need to understand, Rosenwald did not pay for the schools entirely. For there to be buy-in, the local Board of Education had to put a third of the money in. The public had to put a third of the money in. And then, of course, Rosenwald put a third of the money in. So you had money coming in. I'm sure that Rosenwald ponied up and did what he had to do in order to make the school possible. But it is amazing to me that over 35,000 children in Georgia attended Rosenwald schools. And of course, that changed in the 50s when separate but equal went into effect. And finally, there was a push for equal educational opportunities for both African American and white children together. So what became of the Rosenwald schools? Well, Rosenwald, and I'm sort of backing up a little bit. This is a picture taken, and I think, Valerie, you had that in your slide. Rosenwald fell in love with Tuskegee. I mean, but again, you know, he was being led by a charmer, and the two of them just became such close friends. And of course, he was treated like royalty when he came. There were always these shows when Mr. Rosenwald came to the Tuskegee campus. And this was a typical example of the beginning of the first Rosenwald schools. They were either a 2-teacher school or a 4-teacher school. They were always off the ground. They were on, I don't know what you call those, pillars, but it was to let air run in between, and they had to be off the ground. This, I wish I could make it bigger. This is a brick school. And this is, this school is in Washington County. One of you are you the one that's represented for Washington County? You are. Okay. That's the T.J. Elder High School and Industrial School. It still remains. It's used. I called there yesterday, and they have weddings there, but it was brick. So it's over. It's almost 100. It's just slightly less than 100 years old, and it has staying power. But it's become such an important part of the community. I called the president of CNS Bank there because he's the historian for there. And of course, his daughter was getting married this week, so he couldn't talk to me. But his secretary told me all about it. And then she said, you need to call Eddie. And I said, okay. Well, Eddie's a lady, and she's like an African-American historian. And she told me everything about the T.J. Elder. So in the front, but the whole school was brick. And then you can see two sides of the school. So it is still in use. And that's the wonderful thing about these schools, that many of them are still in use. You know, I had a script here, but I don't need it. Okay. This lady's mother went to the Jonesboro. Well, this is how records were kept on 3x5 cards, which is amazing to me. This was the Jonesboro School in Clayton County. It was on 2 acres of property. It was a 3-teacher type, so there were three classrooms. It was shows the budget year. It cost $5,325. I called Fisk about INS, and the only thing they could figure out was insurance.
If you could sit down at the microphone.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It's the
Yeah,
streaming.
because we
I'm
can't
so
pick,
sorry.
the streaming can't pick you
I'm
up.
so sorry.
But we'll cut.
I'll do it over
We can
again.
cut those, we'll
Okay.
cut that on. for-
Anyway,
The mics.
in most cases on these cards, it said public. It didn't say whites, because there were whites that didn't want to be associated with it, even though they gave money, which is crazy. This is one of the few that says whites on it. So you can see, I don't understand growing up in the South where African Americans got $850 to put money into a school. I just don't get it. And then the public, that's a whole nother, category, which I don't quite understand. But of course, then Rosenwald put a third in, and that was his third. So this is a real quick rundown of the history of Rosenwald schools in Georgia. That's what I was asked to speak about. Are there any questions? There is something that I wanted to add, and I'm so glad I did bring some of my stuff with me. Fisk sent me a list of all of the counties in Georgia and what the schools were that were built in those counties. So if any, and I have a couple copies. If somebody wants to look at this, you can. If you represent a particular county, you may want to look at what was done. So as we said, 240, maybe 242 schools. And the last thing I wanted to say, but there was something else too. The last thing I wanted to mention was that we talked about the scholarships. Valerie talked about scholarships for up-and-coming people of some level of talent. It was called the Rosenwald Fellowship Program. So Rosenwald wasn't finished after building the 5,000 schools, because this started in 1948. The Rosenwald Fellowship Program. It was a scholarship program that was used to enhance the training of up-and-coming individuals in the arts. The fellowship program began, I said 48. It started in 1928 and lasted until 1948. 588 fellowships were funded to individuals like Maya Angelou, poet and author James Weldon Johnson, Lift Every Voice and Sing, acclaimed opera star Marian Anderson, who sung in major concert halls and at the Lincoln, first to sing in the Lincoln Memorial in Washington. Civil rights leader Julian Bond's father was a recipient. Photographer Gordon Parks and Elizabeth Catlett. Poets Augusta Savage, Claude McKay, anthropologist and dancer Katherine Dunham, writers Ralph Ellison, W.E.B. Du Bois, psychologists Kenneth and Mamie Clark, poets Langston Hughes and Rita Dove, the who's who of the world at that time in the arts. So
Yes, you said Marian,
Anderson,
okay, and wasn't she Maynard Jackson's great aunt? Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
I think there's a connection. Okay, I think I'm finished. I just wanted to say one other thing in behalf of my friends down in Quitman, Georgia,
Oh, yeah.
which is Brooks County. Somebody has Brooks County? They are looking for money to complete what's left of their last Rosenwald school. They do have another school called the Barney School, which was rebuilt a number of years ago, but they really want the Crossroads School rebuilt. And I've been down there, and it's going to take $650,000 to give them indoor plumbing, heat and air, and those sorts of things, so they won't have to use houses. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate being invited. And
Will you take questions or comments?
I'd be glad to take questions.
Okay, do we have any questions?
Please, questions.
Let me ask you something.
Yes, sir.
During that time, how did Rosenwald decide that he was going to build schools in the South?
He did what Booker T. Washington asked him to do. As I said, when Booker T. Washington heard that he built those YMCAs for African American men, oh, and I forgot to add this, after that was such a big deal for Booker T. Washington that Rosenwald made a challenge to 12 other major cities in the United States, and he said, the problem we have here has been resolved. I will put up $150,000 to each of the 12 schools, to each of these cities to build their own YMCAs for African American men, and everyone bit the bullet. They all built YMCAs for that $150,000 because they had to add money to it. But when you talk about money back then, $150,000 was a tremendous amount of money. Rosenwald was guided by the issue of tzedakah, of charity. But in Judaism, it's not a one-shot deal. It's something that sustains for a while. It's not just, I'm going to give you money for this particular thing. And Rosenwald had a heart of gold. He was generous. But Booker T. Washington was a charmer. He really was. They were both extraordinary people, and it was like there was an alignment of these two people that knew they could help change the world.
You know, the reason I ask is I'm a graduate of Tuskegee, but I've never heard this story.
Really?
Yeah. And what I'm wondering is, you're giving us a history of a guy who had money, came to the South, basically, because South was segregated on big time, and built schools that educated folks who went to HBCUs at that time. But this story, to me, has never been told.
You're right. And when I give this presentation, and I've given it all over the state, well, I shouldn't say all over the state, but I've been to many different retired teachers conferences and that kind of thing. I say it's hidden history. I always start by saying, I want to say the title of my presentation is Hidden History. To me, it is one of the most earth-shaking things that ever happened, and yet it's not in a textbook. And I'm going to just refer to my friend, Emmett Mullins, who on his own, after retiring as a principal in Gwinnett County Schools, and he comes from a lineage of educators in Gwinnett County, he is the first one. He's working for Claremont Press. I know it. It's in my brain. Claremont Press. And for the very first time in an 8th grade social studies book, this is going to appear. The first time ever that anything has been in a textbook. So, and we have one of these for each of you. I didn't ask him to laminate them. I said, just bring me a picture so I can pass them out. He's laminated them all. Everyone in here will have a picture of this.
Could we get you to give that list to this young man? He can go make copies.
Oh, sure.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I'm sorry, your list. Oh, absolutely, absolutely, yes. And I got this from Fisk. I get everything from Fisk.
But Booker T. Washington came from Fisk to Tuskegee.
Yes.
He set up school.
Yeah.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah,
Doctor.
so I appreciate this conversation. It's so energizing. But I was thinking the same thing. Why do we not hear about him? What is going on? Well, he intentionally decided to not have his name on hardly anything that he did. I'm surprised we're even saying Rosenwald schools today, because he was just that humble. He didn't want a library built with his name on it. He didn't want anything. So he chose really to have this anonymity about what he did. But you will see the Woodruff Library, the this and the that, they wanted to have their names. There's nothing wrong with that. But he intentionally decided not to put his name on things or have things named in his honor and all this. He did not want his name. So I just wanted to share that
Thank
in terms of what he
let me
decided.
ask you
Yeah.
something. Is there any history on Rosenwald as to how he made his money?
It's out there, but it's, again, not taught. But one thing that he did, he decided to sell business suits. That was one of the things, that's how he got connected with Sears. So Sears was looking for a supplier of lightweight business suits. So it's like word of mouth. It's like, oh, I heard about Rosenwald. He sells these suits. So he became a supplier for the Sears stores before he went on, the business side of it. So that's one of them. And I know some things about his father as well.
Right.
So,
I was going to
yeah.
say, he came from, Jews came to this country as immigrants.
Right.
And they came and they went to Talladega and they could not stand Talladega. I guess it would be his grandmother said there were rats in the streets and they didn't like the way people were treated. That's almost a quote. And they finally settled in Peoria, Illinois. And as you know, President Lincoln was from Peoria, Illinois. And they had opened a store. It became a very successful store, just a general store with clothing. And Rosenwald had been sent to learn the trade of making suits and making menswear. They had a cousin in New York in one of the sweatshops doing this stuff. So he got trained to do this stuff. He comes back, and when President Lincoln was killed, I'm going back and forth in time, but when he was killed, the entire store that the Rosenwald family owned was covered in black satin. The entire store. And they were part of the entourage of people that took the wagon with Lincoln's body in a coffin back to Washington, D.C. They believed in the American dream. And I think they also felt that they had to share what they have to make other people part of the American dream. I really think it was in their DNA. They knew how people were treated. They were very sensitive to that. And their home is in the Lincoln Historic District of Peoria, Illinois. And you're right, Valerie, you're right. He was very modest about the money he had. He was equivalent to the Vanderbilts and the Biltmores and the Fords, the wealthiest people in the United States. They didn't necessarily mingle. First of all, they were Jewish, and they weren't. But I think they had some camaraderie with one another. I think they probably went to the same events, and they probably contributed to the same charities and that sort of thing. But anyway, I hope you're asking some very good questions. And I am surprised you're a Tuskegee graduate, right? But you had not heard about Rosenwald. But you're too young. You wouldn't have heard about him.
I don't know about young now, 'cause I'm up in age now, but what I'm saying is, when I came up in school, I went from a segregated school to white high school.
Right.
Military high school. And when I was coming up, when Black History came around, you had to do a paper on it. You had to know something about it.
Yeah.
In schools now, you can't even find it, let alone have a teacher to tell you about it.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is, this is a good history to show how people did things and got along with folks in order to get things done.
Right.
And now what we have is a system of government by a president, the folks elected. Now they are wondering about it because he sent all the money to Argentina for them to send beef to the United States. You should know this coming up from elementary school to high school.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have trying to erase the history of blacks in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give you a good example. I did not know who was the Librarian of Congress until he filed us. When you walk into the Pentagon, all the black generals whose pictures were on the wall are gone. And so what I'm saying is, here we are today, and people are trying to erase the history of how folks came up, how they made it, and those kind of things. And so who gonna do it? You gonna do the history on it? You gonna put out the book on it?
I can tell you about one
Is one already out on it?
It's a book.
as of a week ago.
What is the name of it?
Well, I mean, do you want me to tell you about
Yeah.
what
The
we got?
name of it.
Okay, so my name is Emmett Mullins, and I am a former Gwinnett County educator. I'm retired, but I work for Claremont Press, which is a local company. It's a Gwinnett, Georgia company, and our niche market is history books for 8th grade in the Southeast, because almost every state in the Southeast has their state as the curriculum in 8th grade. Georgia history in 8th grade, Alabama history, Louisiana has it. That's just kind of a typical thing. So we're a little company, but we're strong, and we're a really strong educator company. When I first heard Mike's story, I thought one of the challenges well, you can imagine, working for a company that writes social studies materials is difficult, because you're always walking a fine line between history, geography, economics, and the current politics. So it's a challenge. And what we're really fortunate in Georgia, we have really great social studies standards. The DOE has an excellent list of standards. If you're an 8th grade teacher, you know what you're teaching. It's itemized. How you teach, it's up to you, but you've got your list. So we write textbooks to support Georgia teachers and students in that curriculum. But as a lifetime Georgian, I know that there are so many extra stories that we're not going to tell. So we have a part of our textbooks that are called the special features. And features are beyond the standard, but they give you more of the rich history of the state. And they're short, and they're enough, hopefully, that a teacher and a student can go further in their own interest and learn about it. And the topics are people like Leah Ward Sears, Jesse Mercer, Juliet Gordon-Lowe, Moena Michael. Sometimes it's events, Tomochichi's funeral, the wrongful imprisonment of the Leesburg girls, institutions like Spelman College. So, those aren't going to be itemized in the standards, but they add to the context of our state history. When I heard Mike's presentation, I was like, I've lived here my whole life, and I know Georgia history pretty well. I have never heard of these Rosenwald schools. How have we missed this? How have I missed? I felt ignorant of something I felt like I should know, probably like you're feeling about as a Tuskegee graduate. How did I not know this? So I didn't realize, I'd end up here talking about this. I just was like, this is a story that we need to tell. I'm concerned that we lose not just the buildings, because we've obviously lost a lot of those buildings, but I don't want to lose the legacy of them as time goes by. So I had one of our contributors do more research, write the article as a special feature that's in the textbook that we're marketing for Georgia now. We only write for middle grades. We're, like I said, it's just a really small market that we target. But we have a new program coming out. We have our team down at the Georgia Council for Social Studies today. We're actually there sharing it with school districts and hoping that they buy it. But in it is this article, and when the students have a textbook, but if they're looking at it online, there's actually a link to some of what Mike's talked about. They can click a button and they can see that list of schools. They can see the map that Dr. Bennett had, so they can see it on their devices and learn more about it. So this is a very condensed story, but hopefully it gives our students enough, wherever they're from, whatever part of the state they're from, whether they're natives or newcomers, they're going to learn that story. And I think that I felt like it was just a little contribution that I can make to kind of work it through my company to say, let's include this story. But I really hope it helps students understand the power of people working together in their communities to accomplish, common goals to make their communities better. Because to me, that's the power of this story is people helping people to make their communities better. So, anyway.
Well, it's a story that needs to be told. I found out one thing when Booker T. Washington was at Tuskegee. If you were white and wanted a federal job, you'd call Booker T. Washington to ask him for help, because he had the ties in Washington to get it done. And so you know, today is a history lesson for me, but it also ought to be a history written so that other folks can read about it and understand what happened back during the day.
Absolutely. And so in this example, this is in the context of teaching children about the Progressive Era and the New Deal and the Great Depression, so all that time period, that's in the standards, all that's spelled out in the standard, and we're teaching them that, and then we're building more context by adding this particular story. So hopefully we're addressing exactly what you're talking about with kids who are in 8th grade, and they have a lot of other interests, so we want to snag them while they're young.
Well, you better.
I was going to just mention one other thing, and I don't know if it's all that critical, but there was a woman by the name of Jeanes, Jeanes. She was Quaker. She was from Pennsylvania. She gave $1 million to Booker T. Washington because of these 5,000 schools that were built. The teachers were not always, they weren't college graduates. I mean, they weren't. They were probably bright women. But she created this fund to hire 14,000 supervisors for these 5,000 teachers that would be in these schools. And Isabella Holmes, Hamilton Holmes' mother, was a Jeanes supervisor.
Right.
Oh.
And I wish to this very day.
Well, you need to put that in the history book.
Yeah, we need to.
I know.
We
I
need
know.
to get you to
You know, I
put in her book that she's gonna
Because-
write.
I mean, to me, and I wish I had asked her more questions when she was my supervisor. You know, we became very close, and very close with the family, and I still keep up with all the Holmes. So,
Well, thank you.
thank you very much, and
And-
I'm so fortunate to have gotten to be friends with Senator Davenport, and I love your questions, great questions, and I just so much appreciate your time here.
well, see, I need to go to Sandersville and tell them
You do.
about TJ
Elder School.
about how the school got started.
You asked for, they know it. That's the thing. They are still proud of it because some of them were graduates of that school.
They were graduates of TJ Elder.
Yes,
It's basically used now as
all events facility.
almost like a community center.
That's right.
They do everything.
That's right.
Anything large scale
That's right.
in the black community, they do it at TJ
That's right.
Elder School. And so,
Thank you. We gotta stop.
you can't know about it if it ain't in the history book, so you can find out about it.
Well, I just spoke to them yesterday, and they pretty much know the history. It's a pretty historically savvy town, I think, Sandersville.
Thank you so much. You want to say something? We have to end at 1, and we have one more great speaker, but go ahead, sir.
Okay, let me just say that a lot of people looked at the schools, especially the one in Clayton County, as the Jonesboro Colored School. They did not know about Rosenwald School. My mother was 98 years old, and she taught, but when they were going to school, there as children, they did not know, and young people, they did not know that it was the Rosenwald School. It was called Jonesboro Colored School.
Yeah.
That, and because Rosenwald didn't want his name attached to whatever, that was probably the reason there. And, because you had other schools in the area too. It was just that one that was a Rosenwald right there, but the other schools, children had a one-room schoolhouse, and they had to go somewhere. My great-great-grandfather donated land so they could have one room school for grades 1 through 6, you know, in another area of the county. But when they left there, they had to have someplace else to go, and that was the Rosenwald School, the Jonesboro Colored School.
Wow. That's very, in fact, I don't want this to end. I mean,
I
before
know.
we start, but I want to first of all, thank you, Senator Davenport. It's not over. And then I'm sure that with Mr. Mullins and Mr. Rosenwald,
Weinroth.
I'm trying to
Weinroth.
pronounce your name right. Okay. And you too, Doctor. We're gonna have this is a hearing, and hopefully we can present your bill on the floor in January and move
hopefully
forward.
so.
So we'll be calling on you again
Yeah.
because you'll go before the whole legislature
Yeah,
and that
hopefully,
committee.
yeah, hopefully so. I think when people look in this climate, when people talk about the education of black children, a lot of people don't want to hear that because they think we're going in some other direction. But it's just history of Rosenwald schools. And history, black history is 365 days a year.
That's right.
And, because I'm having a Black History program next month in my community. So it's just important that we do it, but we'll get ready to hear from, you would think they were a man
Eleanor
and wife, but
Roosevelt
they're brother and they're brother and sister, and they have done something phenomenal. And I was in Warm Springs.
Very good.
Mr. DeBron Walker and Ms. Von Cher Walker, the owners of the Eleanor Roosevelt School in Warm Springs, the last school that was built as a Roosevelt school.
And while he's coming up, again, I want to thank all of you who have spoken already. And I know Michael Holmes. I grew up with him. He was a little older, but he was in our little circle. Yeah, and I knew them all too. And you didn't say.
Lauren's birthday yesterday. She's
Oh, really? I know all of them too.
graduate.
Yeah, I went to Catholic school
Okay.
with all of them. It was a little bitty Catholic school. It wasn't a Rosenwald. I don't know. It might have been a Rosenwald school too. All right, thank you. We're gonna hear about the Eleanor Roosevelt schools, and you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, let me see which one. I gotta have a mic pulled towards you.
Okay, I'll take this microphone right.
What number is that? One.
Is number one.
Okay. All right.
All right, thank y'all so much. My name is DeBron Walker. I'm co-owner.
Could you sit down?
Yeah, sure.
Or either pull it
Oh, I
over
can do it
closer
here.
to you, if you talk loud.
Yeah, I'll do it here. I can
Okay.
do it here. This is perfect. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is DeBron Walker. I am co-owner of the Eleanor Roosevelt School, which is the last Rosenwald school built in the United States of America. And hopefully today I can give you a little clarity on what you were actually asking about, Senator Lucas, as to who knows about these schools, what's the momentum, what's the dialogue that's going on. And that's why I want to start my slide by saying that CBS Mornings has actually already come out to highlight and cover our school. Thanks to a good friend named Andrew Filer. He wrote a book, which I believe is right here, and we're featured in that book as the last Rosenwald school. Now, with that being said, because we are a little short on time, I know that Michael and everybody had a lot to share with you all. I'm going to kind of be...
Oh, 1 minute. You're not the last because TJ Elder is one of the Rosenwald schools in Washington County.
Right, but
One,
this one's the last one.
And also, he's the last speaker today.
last speaker, last school. And Michael, he had an asterisk.
I just want to be correct.
Oh, he had an asterisk for a reason. He was...
The asterisk, when it said 1932, I had an asterisk.
Yeah.
There was a reason for that. And I was waiting for DeBron to tell you what that asterisk was all about.
Well, tell me about it.
Yes, sir. So as everyone spoke about, the Rosenwald Fund ran from 1912 until 1932. And with that being said, as you all know the history of Franklin Roosevelt, he was in Warm Springs for polio. And he celebrated everything about West Central Georgia. He had a wife who said, you can't celebrate the minerals of the pool and not acknowledge that there's disparity that's going on here. And that led him to reach out to the Julius Rosenwald Fund, which had closed in 1932, to say, hey, I need another school. My wife won't let me live this down. And with that being said, and I'll get into a little bit of my presentation on as to how, because there's a connection with the HBCUs that performed a disparity study, which is also one of the questions that you asked. You know, how are these schools built? A lot of times there was a disparity study done to justify if there were schools that were needed in that particular area in comparison to their white counterparts. I don't know if I have audio, but I did prepare a quick film, but.
But go ahead.
Can it-
How quick?
Well, you know what, it's on our website, www.erso1936.com, and it talks about the school.
Is
So
it more than 5 minutes?
it's 5 minutes.
Okay, go ahead. You don't think we have time?
No, I don't think when we got it uploaded.
Oh.
It got
Yeah.
connected to it, so.
Okay, sorry, it's
Okay,
not.
that's fine, I can keep going.
But tell us again, the website.
It's the www.erso1936.com. And it pretty much highlights in 5 minutes the significance of all of these amazing schools in Georgia and why Roosevelt chose to highlight such an amazing accomplishment.
Very good. Well, Eleanor Roosevelt was really the most powerful
She was.
woman, first lady.
Yes, ma'am. She had a lot to say.
Until Michelle Obama got
She had a lot to say, and I'll kind of I'll kind of get through these slides kind of quickly. A lot of this has been covered, as you all know. Up From Slavery read like a documentary, like one of us actually lived during slavery, and that got the attention of not just Julius Rosenwald, but as you all can see, that's Teddy Roosevelt, and that's 1901, and he was actually invited to the White House because of what he was doing in the Southeast, and he did quite a bit. That at the time was a key pillar for the inspiration of Eleanor and Franklin, who were a lot younger. These are two books. One you all are familiar with, Up From Slavery. And there's another book on the other side written by a gentleman named S.L. Smith, and it's called Builders of Goodwill. That book is written by one of the presidents of the Rosenwald Fund. So it's a diary of all of those Rosenwald schools, how they were built, who attended them, and what were the needs of that community. And that's Builders of Goodwill. And again, I have one quick excerpt
Okay, go
to
ahead.
kind of somewhat, Senator Lucas, justify why we received the school. There was a building in Warm Springs. It was called the Old Warm Springs Negro School. And it was an embarrassment, to be honest. And this is what was in that book. He said, I was informed by Secretary McIntyre that President Roosevelt would take us to the Old Negro School and to the proposed new school site around 2 p.m. He enjoyed driving his old top Plymouth, which was specifically prepared for him to drive. We first went to the old school, which was in session by 2 teachers. I had inspected and written brief descriptions of thousands of Negro schools, which were Rosenwald schools, with a view to approving plans and aid the Julius Rosenwald Fund for new building. But I must confess that this old building was one of the worst I had ever seen. The picture taken by me on this occasion will give you some idea of its appearance, except that it flatters the building. That's the Old Warm Springs Negro School. That prompted Franklin Roosevelt to reach out to, at the time, Georgia State College, which is now Savannah State University. And in 1934, they performed a disparity study. And that study covered everything from how many people had televisions, who died from sickness, how many people had gone to college, how many people had ever ridden in a vehicle. All of those things justify these schools being built in rural Georgia. It's the interior of one. Here's that document. I like to reference my sources when I share that kind of information. But this was the State Department right now of Education, Division of Vocation. And as you can see, that's April 9th, 1934. And that's Savannah State, which is at the bottom. And the gentleman who conducted this research, his name was L.S. Millett. Builders of Goodwill. And as Rosenwald died, as everyone has spoken about, he died in 1932. And there's a gentleman on the right side. His name is Edwin Embry. He's the individual who picked up to do a lot with that fellowship that Michael mentioned. He's the one that picked up to do a lot with the libraries that the Rosenwald schools were actually participating in, because it was education, healthcare, fellowship, and libraries. There was a plan to keep going during the Jim Crow South. This picture right here is special to me and my sister. This is March 18th, 1937, and this is the day that our school opened up. And what's unique about it is President Roosevelt used his own personal money, his own personal dollars to construct our school, and that's also what makes ours so unique. And with that being said, he also gave the dedication speech on March 18th, 1937, inside of our auditorium. Now, there was also another
Yeah, that is remarkable. Go ahead.
Now, there was also another pleasant surprise that we discovered when we were doing our research is, this is the interior of my auditorium. Here's Franklin Roosevelt, but as you all can see, there are a group of gentlemen on the left side. That's the Fort Valley State's Men's Glee Club. They were actually present that day, March 18th, 1937.
Wow.
We've reached out to Fort Valley. I talked with Dr. Paul Jones about it at Morehouse's Homecoming, and they're very much involved with wanting to collaborate with the extension program. So there are HBCUs who do know. There are a lot of individuals who are excited just as we are about this, but the Fort Valley State's Men's Glee Club was present, and we do have the program. They sang Ezekiel Saw the Wheel, and there's a speech that President Roosevelt gave that day, which I won't go into for time, but I do also have that speech that he gave in our auditorium.
Can you send it to us?
Yes, ma'am, I will.
Okay, thank you.
Now, a little bit, what makes the Eleanor Roosevelt School unique? Well, believe it or not, it made national news. It made national news when we opened that school, and President Roosevelt was very intentional about that. It was the first school in the United States to receive a free milk program. Of course, it was the last built. It was commissioned by President Roosevelt, and it was named after a First Lady. We created this program called the Eleanor Roosevelt Outreach. It's ERSO. And a lot of people ask us, well, what are y'all going to do with the school? Well, one of the things that we decided to do is focus on vocational education. So we partner with the Georgia Vocational Rehab Agency. We work special needs, and we do pre-eds for students with special needs between 14 to 22.
That's great.
This video, I don't have time to go into it, but this is the last and oldest living educator of the Rosenwald schools. She's a member of Delta Sigma Theta. Her name is Miss Cecilia Dean, and I got to spend 4 hours with her to figure out what was so unique about these schools and what actually don't I know about Warm Springs. And I'll tell you one quick story. She said, you know, Walker, when we got books about how amazing it would be for a man to go to a moon, they had already sent someone to the moon. That lets you know just how behind they was, and those are the type of things that justified the construction of the building. Again, one of our focuses is education. We also are working in the school systems. We do agriculture. That gentleman there, his name's DeBron Walker, and he does aquaponics, which is a form of urban farming, and we do some traditional farming, but that's one of the things that we're also offering.
Is that where they have the tanks?
Yes,
that
ma'am.
they
IB
put-
totes. That's correct.
Okay.
Soilless.
We have that, not in too many schools.
That's right, but they
that's
do have
very
it in your home. There's Andrew Young is building an aquaponics center in Clayton County called the Forever Young Aquaponics System. We'll be taking a lot of our Rosenwald students to that school.
That's her district, but I
You're
claim
from,
it.
yeah. I thought you said you were from Jonesboro.
No.
Oh, you're from
I
Jonesboro. I'm
was born and
sorry.
raised in
Collier
Atlanta.
Heights. That's correct. I
Collier
apologize
Heights,
for that.
right?
All right.
But
This
that's
is-
all right, that's close enough.
I'm sorry. It's Metro Atlanta. I'll just stay safe right there, right?
Thank you.
These are some of our students. We do teach our kids a lot about traditional agriculture as well. We're working on with Title I. And another unique piece of history that I love to share is there was an American Negro Exposition of 1940, which highlighted us and everything we've done since the Emancipation Proclamation. And it took place in Chicago in 1940. Now, what's so unique about this is you covered everything from there was art, there were stories about all of our achievements up until that date. And what was unique about it was they had this thing called a Hall of Dioramas. And this is the Chicago Coliseum right here. And as you guys can see that middle piece, there are 33 dioramas that cover our introduction to slavery, our introduction to Christianity. There's a diorama for the pyramids, and all 33 go around. And the 32nd and 33rd are the Old Warm Springs Negro School from Warm Springs, as well as the Eleanor Roosevelt School. It was the 33rd diorama, and CBS did do a segment highlighting those dioramas because that also made national news in 1940. Again, we work with the UGA Extension Program for our kids with special needs. We do a lot of self-advocacy and entrepreneurship. These are some of our kids that we graduated with. I was actually the keynote speaker for GVR's graduation here. And again, we talk about why are we here? We need support. And a lot of people ask us, how were we able to do that? Because of people like you who did not know that these schools existed, did not know the significance of Georgia history, but we were able to, thanks to the help of Senator Raphael Warnock and the Roosevelt family, we were able to receive the endorsements for the National Park Service to grant us $693,000.
That's excellent.
Well, let me ask
So-
you
Yes, sir.
this. Do you still live in Warm Springs?
Yeah, we have property in Warm Springs. Yes, sir.
Well, who's your senator from there?
That's Debbie Buckner.
That's a House member.
I'm sorry, Debbie Buckner. I'm not sure.
No, Debbie's in the house.
Debbie's in the house. Debbie, we have not talked with the senator. The only person
Who
we
is your
talked to.
senator?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
I'll be your senator.
If y'all can look it up, if y'all can look it up. I deal with everybody on a face-to-face.
We'll
Debbie's
find
been very
Do
vocal
you
with
know?
that.
You want to come up?
Oh, I don't know. I do have something to say whenever he's.
Okay, come and
Okay.
sit up here with us.
All right, come on up,
Uh-huh.
Michelle.
Go ahead.
All right.
But I think
Can-
the United States Senator Warnock spoke at the rededication and reopening of
Yes, ma'am. On April 12th was the day that President
year?
Roosevelt.
This year?
Yes, ma'am. President Roosevelt died on April 12th, and I was fortunate enough to speak with Senator Raphael Warnock at the Little White House, as well as with the Roosevelt family. And thank you for coming down.
Senator Summers is your.
I haven't met Senator Summers.
Senator Randy
Is in Meriwether County,
Meriwether County.
so that's Randy Robertson.
Randy Robertson.
I have not met Robertson at all. I haven't. Thank y'all so much. It's been Debbie. Debbie's like, Walker, keep going. All right, so again,
Yeah, she helped get the pool reopened.
that's
You know,
Oh,
right.
yeah.
and-
That's right.
And they had it on the same date,
The day we had our open house, that's
So
correct.
is the pool hot springs too, hot water? I mean,
Warm Springs.
But yes.
Reopened, it's just reopened.
Yes, ma'am. And that's another one of the reasons why we're here. Tourism is one of the most important things to Meriwether County. And they did successfully open that pool. It stays at 88 degrees year-round, and that's the reason Roosevelt was there. It's amazing.
oh, yes, yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Rebuilding is also something we've been focusing on. Again, these are the things that our students have done with the 3D renderings of the school. Some of our architectural plans. I'll get through. Again, tourism, we focus on daytime tourism. So 63% of the trips to Meriwether during the day. So we like to focus on bringing everyone down while the sun is up, Meriwether County. Yeah, this is one of our programs here. I'll let my sister speak to this if she wants to.
Well, I have something else to say. It's the end of your
Go ahead,
presentation.
go ahead.
Okay.
Because we got
I know we only have a
4
few
minutes.
minutes.
Go ahead. Yes.
So,
I cut it off.
okay.
Okay.
I first want to acknowledge, how we're all sort of interconnected in so many ways. I went to Frederick Douglass High School as well, and also Booker T. Washington, because Dr. Hill didn't play with me. So I graduated from both schools, and so it's amazing to be in the room with everyone, and we all sort of have crossed paths in some way. It feels like we are destined to be in this moment. So I appreciate you all. I wear a bracelet called a Sankofa bracelet, which talks about the past and the future generations. Wow. And I've worn this for years, probably before we purchased the school. So, I just feel like in a lot of ways, I tell people we stand on the shoulders of our ancestors, and so, I'm not the speaker. I usually let my brother do all of that, but today they said, you need to be here. So I'm here, and I wanted to at least address you all to give my piece on supporting the initiative that Mr. Weinroth is working towards. So,
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead. We would love for you to share.
I just want to say the story of the Rosenwald Schools is a remarkable chapter in American history, one that speaks to partnership, progress, and perseverance. Between 1912 and 1937, Mr. Rosenwald, as well as Booker T. Washington, joined forces to, of course, build these 5,000 schools. At that time, segregation and systemic inequities left black people with little access to quality education. Rosenwald's initiative was not just about constructing school buildings, it was about creating opportunity, dignity, and self-determination in communities that have been denied both. What made the program extraordinary was its model of shared investment. It required the contributions of local black families who often raised the money, donated the land, or even helped to build the schools with their own hands. White school boards that had to commit public funds, making it one of the earliest examples of public and private partnerships in American education. So it was an early blueprint for collaborative community investment. And I think that in speaking to just the hidden history aspect of things, I feel like because they created a blueprint, and I speak about knowing and understanding our past, it's important for our kids to understand that the blueprint has already been laid and that they can take that and continue to run with that to do similar things in the future. So that's always my push to children, is to preserve our stories and our heritage and our communities so that we continue to be able to tell our own stories.
Good stuff.
So, so anyhow, my brother and I steward the Eleanor Roosevelt School in Warm Springs. It holds a special place in the story. It was built in 1936. It's the last Rosenwald school ever constructed. And, you know, President Roosevelt, who had come to Warm Springs because of his polio therapy, saw these disparities and, you know, wanted to provide educational resources for black children. He saw that promise through. He personally invested his own funds to make sure that it was the promise was kept, and named it in honor of Eleanor Roosevelt, who is a champion for human rights, which led to civil rights. And so, again, just the connection to all these different aspects where we have people that have graduated from these programs to go on to become civic leaders and educators and all these things that, you know, they stood for. And so it's a symbol of what collaboration, courage, and shared vision can achieve. It's also a reminder of how fragile our history can be when preservation lags behind progress. I think that a state-level research committee dedicated to the history and preservation of Rosenwald schools in Georgia would not only safeguard the legacy, but help to continue connecting younger generations to the values of the schools embodied, self-reliance, education, and community pride. It's not just black history, it is American history. And
Thank you.
And Georgia has a unique opportunity to lead the nation in documenting, preserving, and honoring it.
Well, thank you so much. Wow. Any quick question, anyone?
Yeah.
Not a question, just a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
A few times to Warm Spring, but I just heard the news a few days ago, they opened the pools. I'm planning to go visit sometime soon.
Good
just
idea.
to see that.
That's a good
so
idea.
hopefully when I get there, I'll get your information
Of course, we'll
and
be
visit the
there.
school too. Yeah.
Most
So that
definitely.
was on my mind just a few days ago. I know it's on the news that opened it.
Well, that's your closing remarks. You can have some too.
Oh, no closing remarks. Thank you all for coming
Very
here
well.
today and sharing this rich history.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know. I know I got new information today as well. So I always try to support the efforts of my fellow colleague. Senator Davenport knows I will, whatever you want, Senator Davenport. So yeah, and I hopefully we can get the committee, the movement on that particular bill. We can get some movement on it. Get it to a real hearing and
Awesome.
get it to a vote. But thank you
Whatever
all.
we can do to
Yeah, we
support.
gotta do that.
We appreciate
All
you.
right.
She's also the chair of the Georgia
Yes, I am
Legislative
chair
Black
of the
Caucus.
Oh, okay.
So, yes.
The
So,
largest-
please come talk to me. Maybe we can help amplify as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
We
Thank
got
you.
one of our team members is running for state superintendent, so we'll be back.
Is he here?
No, he wasn't here. We have another commitment. His name is Otha Thorne.
Yes,
Yeah.
he wrote me and wanted to come. That's why I asked.
Yeah, we've been working every day for the last year together.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. And we're gonna have two more closing remarks with you, Senator Lucas.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for coming and sharing this information. You know, hindsight is one thing, but hindsight gives you the foresight to know which way to go. So without the hindsight, how do we know
which way to go.
Right.
And this history that you just talked about with Rosenwald and Booker T, that's the first time I've ever heard that. I knew about a little history about Booker T because I had to take a history class and they taught me a little something about him. But what I'm saying is, if you think about the 30s, before the 30s, and how the South operated, and all of a sudden you have an influx of folks or a person who wants to try to change the dynamics of what was going on. And now you're looking at a president that's trying to take us back to slavery. Everything he does is about skin color. Everything he does is about skin color. Now, he might let Diddy Combs or whoever, he might pardon him, I don't know.
No.
He pardoned Santos, so, you know.
We're not gonna
What I'm saying is, if black and white folks don't understand the history and how we got to where we are, how the hell are we gonna deal with it?
That's right.
I'm through.
Thank you very much.
Senator
Thank you all so much for being here. One of the things we're going to try to do is educate everybody on the Rosenwald schools.
Yes.
And we're going to try to have a display. We did another study committee earlier about education of black children, and we're going to try to have a display there. I have to get with lead council over there to try to see, to try to get that bill through and where we can have the display here at the state capitol and people will know. And I guess you all know I forgot to put it up, but I just love this picture of Julius Rosenwald and Booker T. Washington. I think you have it in your little packet there. But what I want you all to do is just take the pictures and just, that's the teacher.
yes, yes.
That picture
I just love that picture of them. But, and these are the schools there. So if you see it in your packet there, you have it's national parks. I think it was in 2023 that this article came out. And so you can see it there, but take pictures, put it on display at the church, you know, in the Sunday school room. You can talk about Christ, and you can talk about this too. So if you do that, and then your civic organizations and all of that, just go ahead and talk about this 365 days a year. Thank you all so much for being here. We just love you.
Thank you. And I thank you for introducing that legislation and carrying it further. Thank you, Eleanor Roosevelt Schools.
Thank you.
I've, as a native Atlantan, my mother would take us only in Georgia places. And so I've been to Warm Springs so many times, but not as an adult, only one time. But I remember coming there, and I'm always interested in what's going on in our great cities like that.
Thank you
Because
so
that's a
much.
natural, that's the what nation's only,
One of.
yeah, one of them.
One of, and my job is to bring
warm
kids back. That's exactly
Yeah,
what we're trying to do.
The water comes up.
Comes up.
warm, shoots out.
Year round.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Again, I'm Donzella James, the senator from the 28th, but I am honored to be the chairperson of this Urban Affairs Committee that they asked me to do a hearing on. So thank you for
y'all.
educating me today. And also, you're right, we have a connection, everybody, because I could probably talk 5 more minutes on all the people you've been naming.
Yeah.
I mean, I had interaction. So I think that was the good thing about Senator Davenport and I. We knew each other before we even thought about running. She went to Spelman, and my older sister went to Spelman at the time. And, you know, it goes on and on and on and on. So let us, since we are all interested in our history, let us continue. And I'm glad we had Senator Luca's on here too, because he knows everything about everything. And I love your comment, hindsight gives us the insight to do what? To know where we're going. And he's a graduate of Tuskegee.
I attended a pre-college program at Tuskegee before I went to Spelman.
Well, you went to the role play.
Oh, no.
Well, you're right, but my mother and father both graduated from Howard High School. I mean, not Howard, because that was the second school. It wasn't even there then. It was Washington High School. And so thank the Rosenberg family for bringing it to Georgia, because that's where all the black students, in the, all the way up to 50s had to go. And then they brought Howard High, and so they were torn. And everybody had to be bused or walk. And believe me, Atlanta school system did not bus you. You had to walk. So my mother went from 4th Ward in Atlanta all the way to Washington High every day, and my dad did too. So.
And one other thing, in the records, there are two that we highlight, and one is in Acworth, the community house, Acworth Historical Rosenwald School, and then the other one is in Jonesboro, and this was the article on Sunday, April the 7th, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution plans for the renovation of historic schools. These two also we wanted in the records, and of course the Eleanor Roosevelt down in Warm Springs. So again, thank you all so much, and thank you, Senator James, for allowing us to do the hearing here today.
Okay, thank you. Again, we're about to adjourn and go home safely, everyone, and keep this on your mind. Write it down, write something, and any of you who gave presentations, especially yours, I saw you had it type, double space so I could see. So I would love to have all your comments if you have them in writing. Again, we're officially adjourning at 1:09, and we can still go and see our late colleague, Senator Vincent Forts, unfortunately passed away, so we're naming something after him in about 40 minutes. So we gotta leave here and go. So they're gonna do what, West End?
West End Model Station.
It's where it is, but it's the whole,
it's a
Lee
whole
Street and all of that.
Okay, so we need pictures of the speakers right up
Yeah,
here.
please. And anybody else who wants to get in the picture.
Oh, what?